Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Cucchiara, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Cucchiara.
Welcome in, Joe Cucchiara with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you again for those that are tuning in to the show and watching us via Facebook and checking us out on social media as well. We appreciate that very much. We'll continue to provide you with updated information and education on anything and everything to do with real estate, as we always do. And in addition to that, we're giving updates every week on the real estate and lending market as it relates to COVID-19 and all the issues that are going around, because things are changing pretty rapidly and on a regular basis. So we'll continue to give those updates as well. So as I do each week, I'll give you an update a little bit on what's happening in the market as it relates to interest rates, programs, refinance, kind of the ins and outs of the financing world. And then I'll spend some time talking about the real estate as well and make some suggestions and give you some updates as well. So in general, again, I'll say for those that are listening to these podcasts, and if it doesn't apply to you, please pass it along to those that might. And the reason I say this is we get 10, 11, 12,000 downloads a month. So we have a lot of people that are listening to the show and following the show, which I appreciate very much. But my goal here is to get people as much information as they can to help them make educated decisions here in the real estate and lending world, especially as we're navigating through these challenging times. So if you want to pass this podcast along to any family, friends, coworkers, please do so. And for more information, you could always go to iTunes or Stitcher or Real Estate Radio Live and get the podcast as well. So in general, I'll start with the interest rates. Interest rates, the conforming interest rates have come back down the last couple of days. So again, this is just to kind of give you some basic knowledge. If your loan amount is $510,000 roughly or less, those rates are all the way down to 3.25% or less, depending on, again, credit score, loan to value, and a lot of different factors there. So when I talk about these general rates, please understand that it doesn't apply to everyone. And sometimes, people could pay points to improve interest rates. So these are in general. So the reason I bring this up is because rates are near all-time lows again. Now, what the tricky part here is some of the rates on the high balance loans, and those are loan amounts anywhere above $510,000 up to about $679,000. Those are still a little artificially high, those interest rates. So be careful when you're getting quotes. Be careful when you're talking about interest rates right now, because loan amounts are affected by these. And then jumbo rates are outstanding. The 30-year fixed money is still in the mid to 3.5 to 3 5/8 range, depending. Again, when I talk about interest rates, please understand that these are different for everyone, because they're factored in on credit score, whether it's a purchase, how much you're putting down, what type of program it is, whether you're proving your income or not. A lot of these different factors go in. So rates are outstanding. So for those that have been waiting, the recommendation that I've been making, and we have several hundred people in the system right now, the recommendation that I've been making is that if you want to take advantage of these all-time low interest rates, get your application in now, get approved, get ready to go. And that way, when the rate hits the number that you're looking for, you could be locked in and close the loan in less than 30 days and be good to go. It's almost impossible, I should say, to wait, not have your paperwork in, and then expect to get those all-time low interest rates, because if you don't have your paperwork in yet, you're not going to be able to likely take advantage of locking the rates. And sometimes these rates, again, will only stay at the lows for 1 or 2 days or less, and then they pop back up. So great time to take advantage of those. All right, the other thing I want to talk about, and this is really changing in the real estate lending market, is that jumbo investors. So when I say jumbo loans, in some cases when people are listening to this podcast, depending on what area you're in, certainly if you're Silicon Valley, you're more familiar with jumbo financing, because that's $769,000 or so or more. And, an average purchase here in Silicon Valley, the average home is $1 million plus. So even if you're putting 20% down, you still have jumbo financing for most people. So most people in the high cost areas are familiar with jumbo financing. The reason I bring that up is that jumbo financing right now is the rates are still pretty good, and that's not the problem. Here's the problem. A lot of jumbo investors are exiting the market. That's right, exiting the market. So what's happening is you have less lenders that are lending jumbo product, and then the ones that are lending the jumbo product, their guidelines are shrinking and getting more conservative. So these specifically for people that have jumbo financing, I would get in if you want to refinance or purchase, I would get in and do that sooner than later. And the reason why is that we're losing jumbo lenders left and right. So there's less lenders that are lending to jumbo. First. Secondly, they're getting more conservative. So I would jump in, take advantage of that as soon as you can. And if you need to do that, keep an eye on it and be aware of that. Now, also for real estate agents, we have a lot of real estate agents that follow the show. Please make sure if you're working with your clients to make sure they're approved. And even if they said, yeah, no problem, I'm approved a week or 2 months ago or a month ago, that could have changed. So seriously, if you've been working with a buyer, or even you, if you're listening, if anyone's listening to this podcast that is out looking for a home, and let's say you're approved to buy, okay? And you were approved a month ago or 2 months ago, I encourage you to go back to the lender, whoever you're working with, get reapproved. And some people might be saying, well, Joe, why would I do that? Here's why, because things have changed so drastically in the last 2 to 3 weeks when it comes to financing. Your approval could have changed, and your lender may be too busy, or person you worked with might not even be working there anymore. And you may be totally unaware of the fact that you're technically not approved. And I'd hate to see you out there putting an offer on a home or getting ready to put an offer on a home if you're really technically not approved. So be aware of that for sure. So let's talk a little bit about real estate now. The real estate market is interesting. Real estate was just deemed an essential business last week. I brought that up in my podcast. However, it's tricky because Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, Monterey County all have different guidelines and different laws as it relates to what you can and can't do with real estate under these guidelines. So be careful. In general, my understanding is that you can't show a house unless it's vacant. And that means vacant from anyone living in it, not vacant because someone left the house for 2 hours or they left the house so you could come and look at their house. That is not a vacant house. Now, if the house is staged or whatever, that's fine. So here's the key. Check with your local real estate professional. Make sure if anything's changing one way or another. Now, that's for people that are looking for homes. People that are looking to sell homes, real estate agents and real estate transactions are still taking place. They're just slower, and there's less of them because of the lack of activity. But if you still want to put an offer on a home, you could still do it. If you still want to view a home online or use the video technology, you could still do it. Now, most people might say, there's no way I'm going to buy a home unless I could physically look at the home. And I totally get that. And I understand. I wouldn't blame anyone. Now, so you could obviously look at the house from the outside. You could look at the yards, potentially those types of things. But unless something has changed, my understanding is you can't get inside the home unless it's vacant. So check with your real estate agent. Check with your local authorities in terms of what some of the guidelines are. And again, those listening to this podcast, different counties and different cities, these things apply. They're different. So make sure you contact your local real estate professional to make sure that anything that applies to you in your areas that you are certainly taking care of that. We want to make sure of that going forward. So in general, I would say, when are we going to filter through this? We don't know. There's a lot of talk about this curve flattening and things are going to start to improve a little bit. They're talking about there'll be certain parts of cities, counties, states, and areas that will kind of slowly reopen up, but they'll reopen up in an alternative fashion, which means that it's going to look differently. So the reason I bring this up is that I would be prepared. If you are looking to purchase a home or looking to put your home on your market and you're waiting for things to kind of get somewhat back to normal, I would get prepared because your county or city or state could be affected by some of these new changes. as they kind of start, quote unquote, to reopen some different aspects of business and life. So keep an eye on that and be aware of that for sure. It is a great time to buy, though. It really is. I mean, I'm convinced of that. I know a lot of people are nervous right now, and if you're either in jeopardy of losing your job or getting your pay cut or anything like that, I mean, that's serious stuff. But if your job is secure and you're still making money and you're in the market, it's a great time to buy. It really is. And some people might kind of shake their head and say, what are you talking about? Well, because rates are at all-time low and there's not a whole lot of competition out there, and you have better opportunities to pick and choose your home right now. Now, granted, a lot of the real estate areas, specifically the Silicon Valley, there's not a lot of inventory. So that's the only downside to the potential buyer. You don't have more inventory to look at, but the upside to the buyer is you have less competition and you have some additional negotiating power potentially if someone really wants to sell their home. You have more potential power for that in terms of that and discussing that with the listing agent and the real estate agent that's representing that person as well. The other thing I want to mention for people briefly too, there's a lot of people that are losing their jobs, being downsized, being laid off, being reduced to part-time, all that. So keep in mind, there are provisions right now. Most of the major banks are putting together forbearance and programs, and they mean different things to different people. So I want to be real clear about this. If you're in jeopardy of losing your job, you lost your job, you got your hours reduced, your pay reduced, you may be eligible to look at a forbearance program with your mortgage. What does that mean? Call your mortgage service provider. It's on your mortgage statement. Discuss it with them. Tell them their situation. And most of them that I've heard of, all of them, are putting together programs where they will allow you to delay and not make payments for anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 months. Now, keep in mind, this is not a free mortgage. Some people think it's great. I'm forgiving my mortgage. No, that's not the way it works. The way this works is they'll set up a program so that you won't make your mortgage payment potentially for 3 to 6 to 12 months, depending on the severity of the issue. However, those mortgage payments will be tacked back onto your principal. Okay, so it's not a free mortgage. You just make it later on once you get back on your feet. So be real careful with that. Check with your lenders, check with your service providers. But this is a real good program for people to take advantage of if you don't want to be in jeopardy of losing your home during a tough time. Now, the other part that's great about this is they're not going to report it to the credit bureau. So if you miss your payment, if you don't make a payment for 3 months, it's not going to hurt you on your credit side. And that's what's outstanding about this program as well. The last thing I want to bring up is the real estate agents that follow the show, or anybody else that listens to the show that's self-employed, sole proprietorship, 1099, it doesn't matter. A lot of people don't understand there are programs, provisions in this relief package from the government that is allowing people to get compensated temporarily that are self-employed at any status. What I mean by that is a lot of people think that it's just for small business. That's not true. These relief packages are also available to benefit from if you're a real estate agent, which are all 1099. If you're any 1099 employee, if you're self-employed, if you have your own company, if you are a corporation, if you are an LLC, it doesn't matter. Anyone that has a business, let's put it this way, if you're doing anything other than collecting a W-2 income earning, you could be and may be eligible for any of these programs for support during this time period. So real estate agents out there, I encourage you to go on to the SBA site and specifically look for the program geared for you, small business owners. If your business is being affected by this, you could get some compensation or some loans if you're in a tough position to get you through this trial period or this period of tough time. So that's the last thing I want to say. I hope everyone is staying safe and well. In general, things are slower. Finance is still going 100%. Financing is also essential business. So if you want to take advantage of these all-time rates, give us a call. Let us know. We could help you with that. If you need help with a real estate agent or any support, CPA, financial planner, anything like that, we could help with referrals on those as well. All right, I'll be back with you sometime next week with additional updates. Again, for more information, you can contact me 2 different ways. Joe at RERadiolive.com or you could text or call 408-838-9060. Thank you again for checking in, and thank you again for tuning into the podcast. Take care until next time.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.